Now you have to open the local object repository, go to file, export local objects, and then save it somewhere. Okay, what I'll do is my desktop, I'll create a new file name under the name of QTP new folder. Okay, I'll create a new folder, and inside that folder I'll give the name as shared test. Okay, so since we are testing this shared object repository, I'll name it as shared test, and if you see, the extension is .tsr and it is saved. Now when you see this, this is your shared object repository, so it is saved explicitly in your local file system. And suppose you are using a shared repository in your test, it is important that your shared repository should be present in your local system, otherwise your QTP won't be able to fetch the object properties and your test will fail. Now the thing is, as I created two actions earlier. This was action 1, which has this local object repository, and this is action 2, which has no local object repository. However, since it is we have exported the local object repository of action 1 to our desktop, local desktop, and now it has become a shared object repository. Action 1 will have its local object repository, but whatever we have saved on desktop is our shared object repository, and we can use it for action 2. I'll show you how. So you have to go to, we'll close this, resources, object repository manager. For local we used object repository. To add our objects, we'll go to object repository manager. Now here we have an option, click on open. This is desktop QTP folder, we have saved this. Open this and you can see different objects. Now you'll see that the objects are disabled. We can enable it. Enable editing, there's an icon over here, you can click on this, you can enable. So any test, any action can edit the shared object repository, since it is shared amongst different repositories, different actions. Once you have opened it, you can associate it with the action 2. So I'll close this. I'll go to this resources, object repository, and below object repository manager there is associate repositories. I want to associate action 2 with the shared repository. I will click on associate repositories. There's a plus icon. This is my shared repository which is created, open. Now this I can associate with. These are the available actions with the test. Now this is the associated action. I can associate action 1 as well, but action 1 is having its own local repository. So for now I'll add action 2. Okay. Now you can see the repository has been added. In available keywords, this is the available keywords for action 2, and it will show the repository, the keywords, the objects which have been added now recently from shared object repository. I'd like to show you something in local. We have objects by icon over here as well, and suppose now my application is open. I want to highlight OK button. So there's an error which is saying the object cannot be found in the application. This is because this is not the screen where the OK button is. So what I'll do is I'll close this, I'll open the application again. The OK button is here. I'll click on this. When I click on highlight application, highlight object on application, you can see there's a OK button is blinking, and that's how. Now it may seem useless in a very small application like this, but there are applications which are having hundreds of edit boxes, links, images, the different objects, and it becomes very difficult sometimes. So it could be really useful in that case. Apart from that, we can also search for an object using this option. Now action 1. One more thing is, as I said earlier, we can edit the property values of the object, and also we can delete them. So these are some of the operations you can do with the objects stored in your local or shared object repositories. Now if you see that the default is local, can be created by recording, it is local to particular action, and .bdb is the extension. It is saved locally by QTP, and you don't have to save it explicitly. QTP adds the extension and saves it in its file system. Now shared, as we discussed, it's saved explicitly. It can be shared amongst different actions, and since it is saved explicitly, we need to give extension as .tsr. So now since we have a bit idea about the objects and how it is used in record and run, we'll see the object identification, how it is done, how QTP prioritizes the object properties, and how it chooses the object properties for different objects during recording and run.